So in this first project, I want to build a snake. It's going to be relatively simple, but it'll allow us to use a lot of different modeling tools and then get us into using some deformers to animate it. We'll also get into some texturing with it. So it's not going to be a big, huge project like our warehouse project and our 501 course, but it's certainly going to be more than just a small demo. So let me just show you what some snakes look like. Now, we're not going to build any particular snake like a cobra or any kind of garden snake. We're just going to make a snake. We're not going to worry about a specific species. That said, you should kind of know what you're after, and of course Google is your friend, so you can just do a search for different snakes, and all we're really going to worry about is the head. This technique too can be used for lizards and anything else, because these head shapes can really be pretty similar with just slight modifications. And we can see here that we're going to have pretty much a long tube with just some shapes at the end. But the big thing with this is actually, well, there's two parts: texturing it and then animating it. But the third would be getting that mouth in there so we can open it up. So let me show you how to do that. Very basic, but we'll end up with a very cool look at the end. So what we're going to do is come down. I usually work down the Z-axis. Hold the Alt or Option key. You can click and rotate around. Axes to the left and right, like I showed you in earlier help videos. So I'm going to press Control Space, jump down to the front view, and let's just zoom out a little bit. Something about a 1 meter grid. That's probably going to be a big snake, but we're not going to worry too much about that. You might want to model something, and if I said this already, I'm going to say it again. Try and build things to scale as much as possible. Because as you're building and developing your 3D library, once you need something like a chair or a keyboard or a computer mouse, you can load that up and it will fit into the scene. Everything has some sort of real world scale other than perhaps maybe a flying logo. So if you start building things to scale down the road, and I have models from 16 years ago that I can call up once in a while and manipulate and use as an extra little thing I need in a scene. Also, try and avoid things that are too small. I've actually had some projects lately that required me editing some other people's files, and they were really, really, really small, like an 100 millimeter scale, 20 millimeters, and it was very difficult to work that small. So try and keep that in mind as you're working. It is all relative. It doesn't necessarily matter, but if you don't really care, try and make it a little bit bigger than smaller. All right, so now in this view, we've got a 1 meter grid. We're in the Model tab, Basic tab, and I'm going to click and hold on the cylinder and get my capsule. And as I think about this, I'm going to say, let's go to the right view instead, because I want to draw this down the X. So we're going to select the capsule tool. Just going to click and hold on the cylinder tool, select the capsule, and we're going to draw out. Now here's a little trick. If you hold the Control key and draw out, you get a constrained view. And let me go back to my perspective here and show you what this looks like. Control key will constrain all axis, and of course it makes it look like a ball. But the little trick I'm going to show you is, let's just turn this off, select our empty mesh, turn that back on, click to activate the tool, let go of the mouse, move away, hold the Control key, and then click again, but not on it, just click near it and drag it out, and you'll constrain to a 2-axis versus all 3. And that way, when I go back to perspective view, you can see it's actually flat. So this works well because I can just grab this end here for this capsule and move that out. So what we want to do then is now come back to our front view. And we can just extend this out. Okay, now it's looking a little kind of weird, right? What we want to do is just add a few more segments to the end here. Not that many. Probably just 1 or 2. You can see it jump right there. And then we want to add some segments down the Z because we're going to need this to bend around. But we're going to subdivide it too, so we don't need too much. If you look at the sides, they're default to 24. We really want those maybe about 12 or so. It's going to look like too little right now, but we really don't need much more. And the segments 8, I'm going to bring these up to 12 also, like that. Then we'll turn the capsule tool off by clicking on it, Control Space, get to perspective view, and we've modeled that out. Really, really simple way to begin. All right, so next thing I'm going to do is in the Basic tab, under Center Selected, hit Center All, and A key fits it in the view. Control S, I should say. We're going to call this Snake1. And I'll do underscore version 001. And now you can see that's our Luxology scene there. And let's click on the mesh. And let's just right click if it doesn't pop up, and we will rename it Snake Body, if I can spell. Okay, so there's our snake body. And let's go back to a front view. So now we need a head for this. And what I'm going to do is just come down here. You can go to the positive or negative side, whichever one you want. And we're going to shape this up a bit because the body itself is fine. We just need to tool this right here. So what I'm going to do is go to polygons, select a couple polygons this way, and then I'm going to use Alt-C, which is my loop slice tool. It's also here in the basic tab, loop slice, and we have a count of 1. And if I click, it actually slices that. It's still active, it's still live. I haven't changed anything yet, so I can add more or less if I want. So I'm going to add 3 slices to that. Okay, so it just sliced that loop. And why did I do that? Well, that gives me a little more control over using some of these edges and shaping this. So in edge mode, double click on that edge, and then the W command gives me my transform command. And now I can actually pull this down for a neck. I can take this edge right here, and again, I just double click on it to select it and pull that back a little bit. That's why Snake's an easy tutorial, because it's round. This one right here, double click, and let's scale that up. So I press the R command. We're going to scale that up a bit. And let's double click this one, and let's move that forward. And then we can actually press scale on this one and just scale it down on the Y. And control space to a perspective view, and you'll see that when we go on the Y, we can actually start kind of flattening that out like that. Now the front here, you don't want this polling. That's what this is called right here. You don't normally want that. On this one, it's going to be okay, but I'm just going to click and select those in polygon mode. Then we'll press W, and we'll move that out, and we can actually scale that. And I'll move that back just a little bit. And if you do something like this, like I just did, I clicked off of the handle, so I'm just going to undo a couple of times. And we'll try it again. And just make sure you click right on the handle, and that allows you to constrain that axis. Alt, and then click to rotate. And actually, that's looking okay. So that starts shaping out the head. Pretty simple. Well, before we even want to get any farther, all we need to do is go to Edges, and we're going to come like this, hold the Shift key and select another one, and then I can press my up arrow and watch that go all the way around. That's why Capsule works really well, because I know that edge will translate all the way around. B gives us our bevel tool, and we're just going to bevel this out, but we don't want any round level. So we're going to bring that to 0, because all we want to do is just add a little more geometry in there. Okay, and we can worry about these pinches in here in a little bit later. Then we're going to go to polygons, and we're going to select those polygons. We're not going to choose that corner of the mouth just yet. And then press the up arrow again, and you can see we're coming all the way around. And with this, we can now bevel this in and start opening the mouth. So we're not really cutting the mouth at all. We're just going to just add in polygons and pull it in. That way we'll have an inside shape to the mouth. So let's press the B key for bevel. Make sure Group Polygons is on. Click. And then these little handles right here for the bevel tool. You've got your Shift, which is this guy right here. And you got your Inset, which is this one. We don't really need to inset it much. We just need to shift it. But often you might not want to do it too much with the bevel. A lot of times what I do with the bevel is just use it to multiply that selection, and then I use my regular scale command or move or something else. So this one I pulled in pretty well. R key for scale, and I can scale that back a little bit. Now I want to keep this relatively tight, not sharp, not really fat like that either. We don't want anything like that, which is kind of somewhere right in here. So how do you go beyond that? Well, you just bevel again. So the B key is our bevel. Click, and it multiplies that, adding more geometry, which gives us a sharper edge. Then I'll press R for my scale tool, and I'll scale that back. And that leaves that nice sharp edge. Works pretty well. And you can see why I didn't add this extra polygon here in our selection. It allows us to create just kind of a nice fall off right there. Okay, and we'll fix this point right in here. We'll shape that out. Shouldn't be a problem. All right, so I'm going to leave this polygon just like that. Spacebar, just deselect. We're going to leave that just for the time being, because what we want to do is open this head up in a little bit and then go ahead and work with those polygons in there to create the inside of the mouth. But let's just come back here to our neck a little bit, now that we've got a preliminary head shaped out, giving us some reference. And we probably could have built the mouth down a little bit, but I'm going to pull it up from there. This edge right here, I might actually remove. So the way you remove an edge, and this is one thing I like about Modo, is that instead of just delete on my keyboard, which makes a hole, you use the backspace key. And that removes an edge. If you're not comfortable with that, go to Edge and hit Remove. And that removes an edge. So great way to clean up a model. Okay, and then I can work with this edge and slide that up or down as I need. And I think I'll probably pull it right in here. I might not actually want that neck so close up there. Something a little more like that. There we go. All right, so very basic, ugly snake. It'll look better once we put textures on. Let's go ahead and fix this tail right here, because I don't like this at all. So for this polling, there's two things we can do, and it gives me an opportunity to show you some other tools. I can just cut these off, Command X, go to Edges, double click, and press the P key to make a polygon. Then in polygon mode, bevel it, and we can start beveling it down like that and keep that quad shape. I'm going to undo back to here. Another option is to select just that point, and with that point selected, I could just bevel it and make sure that your round level is down to 0. And what the bevel does is you actually can bevel a vertex, and it just helps smooth out that polling. And of course we can then maybe select this polygon, bevel it down some more, and it saves us a few steps from cutting and pasting and gives us maybe a little bit more control. So, and we'll just pull this out a little bit, shift up arrow, pull that out a little bit, and that way we get a little bit cleaner end there. And remember, we have this just set at our default 2 for subdivisions. So that's tab key turns off our subdivisions, tab key turns it on. And the subdivision level is 2. We're going to end up rendering it maybe about 4, and you can see how that's actually a lot cleaner at that point. So our initial snake, Command S or Control S to save, and then I'm going to say File, Save Incremental, and that now should save it as version 1. Let me do it again because I saved it as V001. Let's do Save Incremental again, and that's version 2. All right, so the next video, let's go ahead and then add detail all up in here and shape out the head, get some textures, and get it animated.